this is Laura. Today I'm going to talk about Gnosis and the Nag Library. I've been making a few videos lately, but they've been really disorganized. I mean, I haven't organized anything. And what I originally was going to do is pick out codices and just start kind of giving like a brief analysis on each one of them, just for people who might not be familiar with it at all. And I know a lot of people are, and so a lot of things that I'm going to be talking about are really elementary to someone who's familiar with Gnosticism and all the texts in there. So tonight, I think what I'm going to do is just talk a little bit briefly about the differences in perspective, particularly Christianity, because there are a lot of people who have studied Gnosticism, or there are even people who, sorry, I'm doing this from my iPhone, who've kind of embraced the Gnostic point of view of things. They're not necessarily Christians and don't even necessarily have a Christian background. In fact, there's a guy that does some videos on Gnosis, and he talks a lot about putting it to practice in daily life. And his wife is actually a Muslim. But this is something that this is a common bond that they share between the two of them. So, since the codices or texts were dug up and resurrected, which was in 1945 actually, there have been a few different movements. There's been like this new modernized kind of Gnostic movement, if you will, and there are several scholars and change this thing around a little bit. Scholars and just people who have kind of evaluated the text, and then also started these little movements and that sort of thing. One of them is Samuel Amor, and when you have time, you should look him up. He's passed away now, but a lot of people regard him as the father of the new Gnostic movement. And but most of his stuff is in I guess it's Latin or Spanish, or it's not. Most of the things that he wrote were not in English, but we've translated them, kind of like what we did with the Nag codices. I think the language that all of those texts are in are actually Coptic. The original Egyptian language. But I can't remember where he's from. I feel like he's from Chile, or I don't remember. Somewhere in South America. Anyway, he wrote something that's very beautiful and very inspired by everything that he studied, all the way from Dead Sea Scrolls to Nag library codices to all forms of mysticism. I mean, he's studied so many different types of religions and Eastern religion and mystic thought. And so he wrote this book called The Perfect Matrimony, and it's really, really beautiful. I think that you would probably change your perspective on reality and definitely sexuality, and marriage, and the way that men and women interact with each other. And in a lot of my videos, I mention Secret Book of John because it's kind of a different take on the creation story. It's very controversial. But I have a theory, and I mention this a lot. I'm not convinced that it's a total contradiction to Genesis. I think that it may just be more of an elaboration. because when you put the two stories together, you'll find that there are a lot of things that are mentioned in the secret book of John that they're just not mentioned in the Bible. It's not that something else is mentioned. It's just almost like it's a different perspective. And if you put them together, it actually starts to make a lot of sense. That's what I've gotten out of it. You know, I try to be really careful when I'm, exploring something that has some spiritual value to it, not to let myself get too caught up on a set pattern of thoughts. I don't ever want anything to become dogma. So, anyway. So I'm just sharing that, and I wanted to just tell anyone who isn't familiar with Gnosticism or Gnosis or any of the texts that are outside of our typical biblical canon, that even if you are a Christian and you've been pretty much raised in the mainstream, don't be afraid to explore, because for most of us who have gone out on a limb to, give these texts some consideration, it's been a very liberating experience. It hasn't made us disrespect the Bible. For me, the Bible is still considered, I still consider it to be my sacred text. I still value it, and I still find comfort in the scriptures. But I look at them differently. I haven't lost my faith. If anything, I have more faith, because I feel like I have more clarity. So I just wanted to share that this evening, and I hope everybody has a great night, and I wish everyone peace and blessings.